Okay, so let's talk the fun stuff, flying drones and stuff like that. First thing I want to talk about is just absolute basics for anybody who isn't aware. Real simple stuff. Let's do the basic modes. So most drones in the world, about 76% of them, if I recall, are DJI drones. So we're going to look at the DJI drone controller model, and this would pretty much be replicated on most other controllers anyway. So this is the DJI standard sort of controller. You got your two thumbsticks. They're going to roughly make you go up, down, left, right, side to side, turn, go forwards and backwards. So moving the drone within 3D space. You also have then, and this is probably one of the most important switches on the controller, which is the mode switch, the general mode switch. So depending on the age of the controller, what it is, whatever, whatnot, you have what's called tripod mode, normal mode, and sport mode. Let's look at those right now. So normal mode is very much your standard mode. You take off and land in it. All the sensors are typically working unless you've manually turned them off. Normal mode is where if you take off with the drone and it's very, very windy, the drone sits there in the sky, maybe at a slight angle, but it sits there in the sky unmoved. The reason for that is the GPS is compensating for the wind and keeping the drone flying at a slight angle. Everybody here, I'm sure, is very aware of drift and apparent wind. The exact same sort of things happen to drones as to boats. So if you're drifting along the sea, a drone would drift along in the wind, and it's compensated for by this normal mode. The GPS keeps the drone in a single place. It moves relatively fast in normal mode. It's sometimes called positioning mode or P mode for this reason. So it's the mode you use to take off and land, to get your drone to a specific place quickly, and so on and so forth. Very useful all around. Next is tripod mode. Tripod mode is your best friend if you're new to drones, okay? Take off, put it into tripod mode. Tripod mode takes everything and slows it right down, yeah? Instead of it zipping across the sky, it moves slowly across the sky. It goes up and down. Everything just moves a lot slower in tripod mode. It's also fantastic for doing videography or precision photography where you don't want to be jerking the camera a lot. It just moves very, very slowly. So tripod mode is all about getting clear, slowed down, nice shots and moving the drone in a very slow manner. Very good for safety around people or confined spaces, all that sort of thing. Next is sport mode. Sport mode is pretty much the opposite of tripod mode. Sport mode takes all of the safety nets and all that sort of thing and gets rid of them. It turns off obstacle sensors and stuff like that, turns off GPS positioning and all that. And it allows the drone to fly a lot faster. So sport mode is for zipping around wide open spaces and all that sort of thing. You can consider all the FPV people permanently being in sport mode. On older controllers then, you got what's called ATTI mode or attitude mode. Very much similar to sport mode, where all of the safety nets are removed, all your sensors, all your GPSs, all that. The drone is in direct control by your sticks. It will drift with the wind. It'll move uncontrolled because of external factors. It will not maintain its position. And then you also have, as I said before, P mode, which is very much the same as normal mode. Another important button, something that is sometimes misunderstood, is the return to home button. So if you take off with a drone and send it flying, just because you took off doesn't mean if you press the return to home button, it will suddenly come back the exact same path, dodge all the obstacles, and land in the exact same position. The return to home is something that needs to be set. Now, it sets automatically on a lot of DJI drones when you take off. However, it may set to return to home at 100 meters. And maybe you've only been flying at 5 meters and you don't want it to go to 100 meters because there's a danger of aviation or there's something else or trees or whatnot. So beware of what happens when you use the return to home button. Don't automatically assume it's going to just gingerly return to you in a very precise manner and dodge all the obstacles and not, go flying up into the sky at 100 meters and so on. Know what actually is going to happen. Is it set correctly? There's a number of ways you can set it. When you press it, it might just make the drone hover in place. It might make the drone return to roughly where you are, but not descend. There's all sorts of ways to set that. So set that up to your own specification. And then the final one, I would say the most basic command is the kill command. If you do this, no matter what the drone is doing, if the controller can communicate with the drone, all the motors will stop and the drone will drop like a brick. Nothing else will happen. That's it. It is the absolute kill command. So this is two of the sticks, either down, left and right, or down internally, left and right, will do that. And you usually have to hold it there for about 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. So you won't really accidentally do it, but that is the kill command if you think there's going to be a problem. Okay, let's look at some advanced modes. Again, we're going to move in the DJI space, but these apply to a lot of other drones also. So we got our point of interest mode. Point of interest is quite useful. So you typically put the drone on the point of interest. So you point the camera straight down, put the drone on the point of interest. So fly the drone over what you're interested in. Say, this is my point of interest. And then you back the drone up. And then when you fly left or right, or you can do it automatically, there's an automatic function where it just automatically flies, it will circle perfectly that point of interest. Yeah, so great for grabbing a orbiting movie of a static object of some description, like a tower or a castle or a house or whatnot. So that point of interest mode is a great thing where you don't need to worry about the flying, you just need to worry about, roughly speaking, what's being captured by the camera. Very useful for that. Great one to know. Next one is the follow me mode. Follow me fundamentally uses the controller as its tag. So it says wherever the controller is, I'm going to follow that and track that with the camera of the drone. And I will move the drone to follow that tag and always keep that tag, roughly speaking, in the center of the frame, wherever I think that is. Yeah. So very useful for, you can just send the drone up into the air, say, follow me. And if you're sailing along or motoring along with your boat or whatnot, the drone will just track you. You don't need to fly that. You can use it for tracking, like you could do it if you were skiing, if you were jogging, whatever, driving a car. It will just, the drone will follow whatever it's designated to. Depending on the settings, it should also have its obstacle avoidance situation automatically going on. You can set your altitude, all that sort of thing. So all of these advanced modes, I would very much recommend you do your own research, like, you know, the YouTube videos, how to use the follow me mode on a DJI drone or on a Phantom or on a Mavic or whatever, and they'll tell you exactly how that's done. Yeah. Another one then, similar to the follow me mode, but a little bit different, is what's called the active track mode. Now the difference here is active track uses AI. So it looks at the image and it looks at the previous image and it says, well, there was a boat here and now it's here, so therefore I'm going to move. Yeah, and so it's using the image to constantly keep the image roughly the same as what you said it to do. So it tracks a person or an object moving, and it doesn't need to be the exact image. It can move, but it knows that there's a moving object in this picture, and I need to track it as the drone. And so the drone will track that drone through as it moves through the world. These videos that I'm showing you here will be very good examples of using active track. They can very much do things like fly backwards and all that sort of thing. That's no issue to them. Drones don't really have a forwards and backwards. So getting that shot of the boat, the speedboat there from the front, is a very standard thing with active track. There are other modes, so like your hyperlapses, where you take off maybe up to 30-40 meters and get a hyperlapse of the sun setting. You know, that you can see some city hyperlapses there, things like that. All of those are possible. Those are all standard software things within the drone. There's also things like course lock. So you say the drone can only travel on a specific course, but you can point the drone at whatever you want. So very useful for making movies where you don't want to be thinking about flying the drone. You just want to think about what you want to put in the camera. So you say, drone, fly from point X to point Y, and I will make the camera point at anything I want. Similar to waypoint mode. So the waypoint mode is where you tell the drone, take off, go to waypoint A, take a picture, go to waypoint B, take a picture, go to waypoint C, take a picture, and it will do that for you. So you don't need to fly the drone. It takes care of it all itself. So it's very much automatic flight. And then there's also a terrain follow mode, where the drone will fly at a specified altitude above the ground over the terrain. So if there is a hill, it'll fly up and over it and back down, maintaining a constant 30 meters or whatever above that hill. So that is all of the sort of controls and modes that I would sort of want anybody who was starting out in this to sort of know, and some of the advanced modes there as well. Let's now look at the big stuff, or the interesting stuff, flying drones on boat. So there's not a massive amount here we need to know that's special, but it's worth sort of looking at it anyway in some sort of detail. So why might we use it on boats is a big one. The engineer in me says they're great for doing some inspections of the masthead. Instead of me having to clamber my way up there, I can just send the drone up real quick and know if my Windex is actually broken or if my VHF antenna is actually there or not, or is the light bulb working and all that sort of thing. Very quick to do. Just send the drone up, click, click, back down, job done. I can quickly look into a harbor to see if it's jammed with people or whether or not I want to go there or whether I should keep going. Great for dodging rocks and reefs. I was in Lone Horse Harbor in Bear Island recently. I think somebody in the group might have actually even hit a rock there this season. It's a beautiful harbor, but it's not well charted in any way, shape, or form. But a drone will show you exactly where all the rocks are as you're coming in. There's very clear sand and very clear rocks. And if you have a drone over your boat as you're driving along, you could very easily see exactly where is safe and where is not safe to drive that boat as you pull in. Much more relevant in tropical waters, of course, where you can clearly see the coral heads and the rocks and things like that. Obviously getting epic sailing shots. Why else would one want a drone? General photography, time lapses, and of course, you can send the drone over to see if the pub is open instead of you having to row over. So why would one not do that? So moving on then, choosing a drone for specifically boats, but in general, I would say you can't really go wrong with the DJI range. It's like choosing Apple or Samsung. You're not buying them because they're somehow just technically better than everybody else, even though they are technically quite amazing. But you're also buying into this large ecosystem and a large support network, and everybody has a YouTube video about how to do absolutely everything on a DJI drone. So that's one of the reasons why they're so prevalent and become even more prevalent every day. They're fantastic drones, you know. If I were personally buying a drone for, let's say, just starting out, I would get a Mavic Mini. It's about a €500 drone. I get some spare batteries and I'd be very happy with that for most work. And then if I wanted a more advanced drone, it would be the Air 2S. And then maybe if I wanted to wait, I would get the Mavic 3. At this stage, I think the Phantom 4 Pro is old enough now that I'd rather just get the Air 2S. It's just a better all-round consumer drone. The only thing something like a Phantom is bringing to the table these days is that it has legs, and we'll see in a moment why that is the case. You could get a waterproof drone like the one in the little video there. That's called a Swell Pro. They seem to be fantastic drones. There's great YouTube videos of people absolutely beating them into the sea, and they seem to just keep on trucking. How they are to fly and the camera quality, I have no idea. But I do know that they can handle themselves in the sea. But as I say there, most YouTube sailing channels don't use water drones. You may think, well, I'm on a boat, I should definitely get a waterproof drone. Most people don't. Most people just use standard off-the-shelf consumer drones. Yes, if they go in the water, that's it, end the story, but they don't. It doesn't seem to be that big an issue. So let's look at launching and recovering. For some reason, it never seems to be a thing that you should launch and recover from a stopped boat or a boat that isn't moving, but we will, ignore that anyway and say that for all intents and purposes, we want to launch our drone from a boat that might be moving in some way, shape, or form. That is to say, making way. So if we pretty much always want to launch from the windward side. The reason for that is the air is a lot cleaner there. So you can get a lot of turbulence coming off the backs of the sails and things like that. That could tip the drone over very fast as it takes off on the leeward side. So if we are on a moving boat, we want to take off from the windward side. We want to take off from the stern, and there's a very simple reason for that. The moment the drone is in the air, it doesn't care what it was doing 5 seconds ago. All it knows is I need to maintain the position I am in right now. But as somebody who's on a moving boat, the boat is moving away from you. So you can literally hold your hand out, take the drone off, and it will drift away from the boat naturally as you move forward, off the stern, no danger at all. So taking off from the stern is a great way to make sure that you're not putting your drone in danger. Taking off from the side or the front, it's got an entire boat's worth of rigging to pass through before it gets to safety, so I would not recommend it. Hand launching is very much a thing that is popular with drone people. boat people, let's say, being able to just hold the drone out, start it up. Obviously, you'll need a second person for this mostly, or typically. Start up the drone, and the drone just launches out of your hand. Not an issue, not a bother at all. Happy out. Recovering it, however, is a whole other story. The Phantom series of drone, which is the one that the fellow keeps dropping there, is a great drone for recovering because it's got legs under it, so it's quite a grippy. You can easily grab it as it comes back to you. However, the Mavic range are grand for it too. You can make a little handle, maybe out of a piece of plastic pipe and a zip tie, to stick down under the drone, so that they're easy to grab. You could also just wear, an old work glove, a leather glove, so that your fingers don't get hit by the propellers. But yeah, landing the drone back on the boat with your hand into the stern is typically a great way of doing it. Sailing Uma, the YouTube channel, recently did an excellent video on flying drones on boats. I would highly recommend everybody watch that. Just a great all-round sort of tips and tricks thing on how to fly drones off boats in video form. Quick one for anybody who is landing on their hand. The moment you catch a DJI drone, if you turn it upside down, it shuts down straight away. It just senses a fault and says, turn off all the motors. So the fastest way to just kill a drone propellers on a boat is just turn it upside down and you're good to go. You could also, of course, fly from the dinghy. And I would recommend, if you are hand launching and recovering, especially recovering, glasses to protect your eyes, gloves to protect your hands, and a hat so it keeps your head safe when they're coming in. So that is launching and recovering. There's a few sort of boat specific technical issues to keep an eye on when you are flying drones from boats. So one of the big ones is return to home. If you take off from point A and you're moving on your boat, if you press that return to home button and you haven't it set up correctly or correctly for the scenario that you're operating, that drone is going to return back to where it took off from, which could be 2 nautical miles behind you or something like that. By the time you get back there, that drone may be already out of battery and in the drink. So just beware of utilizing the return to home button on a boat. You want to make sure you know exactly what the algorithm within the drone is going to do and how you set it. When you are landing specifically, but also when taking off, just beware of the obstacle sensors. Rigging, sails, masts, all that sort of thing can make the drone not want to come near the boat, or can screw with it, or it can suddenly fly away when it detects suddenly a rigging right in front of it. So just be wary of that one. The vision sensors, which aid the drone in maintaining station, when they see ripples, they see what's something that they believe is static, whereas ripples actually move across the water. And so the drone may start to move across the water with the ripples. So just beware of those vision sensors, maybe disable them. Another one would be, of course, steel bolts can mess with the compass. So just make sure you calibrate your drone. And then finally, birds. Some birds do not like drones and they will literally knock them out of the sky. So just be wary of that. I just want to quickly talk about batteries. Anybody who's new to drones may be surprised about how short the battery life is. Typical battery life on modern drones is between 20 and maybe 35 minutes. Not a lot when you're used to, I don't know, a phone that can go for days and things like that. So you just be aware when the thing starts beeping at you, be sure you have a plan for what you're going to do to get your drone back. If you've flown a long way downwind, for instance, getting that drone back may eat up a lot of battery. Another thing that eats into batteries is how smoothly you fly. If you're constantly stopping and starting, it takes a lot of energy out of the drone, which eats into your battery. I would say if you want to get into drones on sailing and stuff like that, it's handy to have an extra spare battery or two that you can just swap them out real quick and off you go. And DJI do a 12-volt charger for their drones as well. So having that on board, you can plug it into a standard cigarette socket, charge up your battery again, and off you go. Final thoughts, I would say, I would recommend that you join the UAI. And when I say join, all I mean is it wouldn't be like this organization where there's a lot of amazing talks and all that sort of thing. It's much more of a loose sort of association, but you do get a newsletter every now and then that keeps you kind of up to date on drone matters in Ireland, specifically around regulations and things like that. So that can be quite useful. There's some meetups, but really it's mostly just the newsletter. And we do try to work with the IAA and give the opinions of the drone community to the IAA. We've just done a recent survey on the new regulations and stuff like that. So, that sort of thing is what we do. Slow is pro, as always. I'm sure everybody here who has ever done any sort of training has learned that slow is absolutely the pro way to go. If you see this picture on the left here, I can tell you right now that's a €5,000 Inspire drone, and that ended up in the water very soon after this photo was taken. This is not how one wants to fly a drone on a boat. It needs to be a bit more controlled. So when you want Slow Pro, tripod mode all the way. If you're concerned around flying drones around people, use the 1-to-1 rule. So if you are 1 meter up, you should be 1 meter away from people. If you are 10 meters up, you should be 10 meters away from people. 100 meters up, 100 meters away from people. That typically will keep you safe around people. And know, of course, the kill command, how to stop that drone in its tracks if you think it's going to go near an aircraft or person or any of that sort of thing. That is everything from me tonight. I would love to open the floor to the world, and I'll take any questions, of course, as well. But I'm not the only one who's able to answer questions here. I think there's a lot of very knowledgeable people here. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Would you like to dump your screen and we can see you and see everybody else? That's great. Thank you very much, Bob. That's fantastic. Wow.